My theme began based on my personal experience. I have collected and documented all sorts of things since I was a child, and my desire to collect and possess has continued to this day. The main object of my collection are those that imply a long time, history, and story. I think all things have a history of their own time, and there is a story of things going through accordingly. So I like to create and imagine stories of things in my way. Especially, I like things like bones, leather, and stuffed creatures. Any living thing will have a life they've been through, and I like to imagine the story and own it. This desire to collect and possess has continued, and my archaeological interest has eventually led to the desire to collect human bones. As a collector, to own the human remains is my last goal. I contacted the archaeological research lab in Eindhoven and asked for an interview.
Yeah, this is volunteers' work also if they like to get more knowledge about finds or so. This is not, the most are not from excavations, but just finds from volunteers and from amateur archaeologists.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, can you use? I say, yes, I'll just put it here or so. And for education, this is also fine always. We have some metal things, especially here the iron things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pottery, also from Middle Ages. This is Asian porcelain, European porcelain, British, this one, 18th, 19th century. This clay pipes, this here. This one is very easy made for children, this one to make with soap or so, with bubbles. Yeah. Like this one is a real one. This is 17th century. This is white clay.
Clay.
Baked, yeah. This, they started to smoke tobacco in 17th century. Then the English had tobacco around the year 1600, and then it came also to the Netherlands. And there's restoration of ceramics.
Yeah.
And the most done technique is with gypsum and with pigments in it.
Yeah.
For Helmond. Alles voor Helmond. There's coffee, I think so. Yes.
What?
It's 3 o'clock, yeah? There's some coffee.
Yeah.
In a while. This one I started a year ago myself, but I still don't have too much time. Also gypsum, about the right color.
The plaster.
Yeah, the plaster. It's strong enough. Yeah. Helmond, it's almost done, but I think I will paint it a little bit with acrylic paint, because there's different colors in it.
But how can you make this kind of details without original pieces?
Yeah.
How do you know the original shape?
Yeah, it was not this one, it was the other one and this one. It was made like this, just round.
Yeah.
But they always have this kind in it.
Ah.
Always, so it must have been here somewhere. Like it comes like this from excavation with a card in it. Also nowadays it's printed. We write still here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do the washing. That's the first part when it comes in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will be put here for drying.
Mm-hmm.
And then later it will be sorted. So like these things, you sort them out and you can find them in literature, how old they are or so. Here's a symbol on it. So you can see how old it is. And then it's documented a few weeks ago. It has been found in excavation in Helmond, 2004. It was never cleaned. I thought, well, it's kind of shaped. So, and iron is mostly thrown away by archaeologists because they would like to have better things. It's got lots of money also to clean it, but we have volunteers. They just clean it in a day or so. And then we can see an N and like number here. And this is something from the industry, I think from 19th century industry from Helmond. Some part of a machine or so. So she was looking up in this book if she can find it, but I don't think it's in it. It says specific, this one. I've never seen it before. Like you put it like this, you can see those lines here.
Yeah.
Here's the center, and you can, I think, turn it like this, and you lock it here.
Yeah.
Something like that. But what kind of machine? I don't know. You can see it's a bit rounded.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they have a wheel, it turns quite fast. You put glass on it, and it makes a round plate, and then you cut off pieces. So then the end is thicker here, and then the middle of this glass circle is also thicker like this, because the speed is less in the middle.
Through collaboration with the local museum, I was able to own the bones of someone without family or friends. In spite of no one can tell what he was like in his life. From basic research, I could only see that he was a man who lived in the 18th century. He could have been the head of a wealthy family who loved by all, or so poor and despised by all. Now, 200 years later, he is an object made up of only a skull and leg bone. Found in a corner of a farm, he came to me with the name tag, no value. He is silent. I was able to do a DNA test through collaboration with the local museum in Eindhoven, where I found him.
Hello, my name is Anne Houseman. I was contacted by Seungbin, and I was involved in a project to investigate DNA samples of the human remains that he provided, and to find some descendants from it. The Forensic Lab Eindhoven is a laboratory supported by Noord-Brabant, and it investigates and studies unidentified human bodies. According to our investigation, the human remains he brought were male, and are from the 18th century. They were buried for a long time in soil similar to mud, so we were able to stay pretty intact. And we were able to take DNA samples relatively easily. We were about to send the DNA we've collected to City Hall all over the Netherlands, and we think we'll be able to use the databases of each institution to find descendants that are currently alive.
And I sent his test result to various city halls in the Brabant area. And a few months later, I could find his immediate descendants. Most of his descendants had moved to Schiedam, which is a small town near Rotterdam. I sent a brief description and some photos of my project to his address provided by City Hall and was able to receive a reply from the descendants. Soon preparation began to be made to meet him, and a few days later, I was able to interview his immediate descendant, Mr. Job Makker, at his home in Schiedam.
Hi, my name is Job. I'm a record collector, and Seungbin came to me with the story of my grandfather, which completely shocked me. I knew stories, but I never would have expected anything like this. Yeah, I was so shocked. I never imagined this would happen.
Yeah, so am I. I never imagined that as a nation from the other side of the globe would own the remains of an 18th century Dutchman.
That's right, besides, it's my ancestor.
Yes, according to my research.
Yes, I heard from my grandfather when I was a kid, because I heard Mr. Jan was the pride of my family. So there are quite a few stories that I've heard. First, he was a carpenter. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I never heard of this.
I've heard he made several wooden furnitures to Willem III, who was the king of the Netherlands at the time.
The king. It must have been a great honor.
That's right, it must have been. He was born in Nuenen, near Eindhoven. It's a small town. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, I've been there. It's a small town, but a beautiful town. The town where Van Gogh lived, right?
Yes, exactly. That's where he lived. Anyway, he was born in a very poor family. It was a carpentry house for generations. It used to be common to take over what your father was doing. So grandfather Jan took over the carpentry. He must be quite a good carpenter. I heard he was one of the most famous carpenter in the North Brabant area. There were no proper workshops, but later they went quite a big one. As his carpentry became famous, it must have been rumored in Amsterdam. At first, he got some ordered furniture from dukes near Amsterdam. That's how he ended up delivering the work to the royal family. At first, it was living furniture, such as cabinets and tables. Some of them are in the Rijksmuseum. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, but I need to check it out.
Yes, look for it. It's an object with lots of details like wood carving. Super great. That's how Jan got a lot of wealth and fame. I think he have been pretty happy. He getting married and have a lot of children. He barely slept and worked. He was a young man in his 30s and he was successful in a short time. Then something big happened.
What happened?
In the 18th century, carriages were an important means of transportation. The king rode a carriage when he was moving. Also, when King's Day, you know King's Day, right?
Yeah, sure.
In time for King's Day, there will be a street parade in front of the crowd in a carriage, and grandfather Jan have got ordered from the king to make the king's carriage. A huge and colorful carriage that can show the dignity of a king. It was a great opportunity for Jan, of course. So he has been absorbed in production night and day. Over time, he made a carriage that has been working hard for almost half a year.
It must be very proud, really.
Did you know what happened? Not long after the march, the carriage in which the king was riding breaks down. The king suffered a minor injury. Of course, the king wanted to show his dignity in front of a large crowd. And then he fell out of the carriage and fell down.
Oh.
Soon after it happened, grandfather Jan was fired for making the king's furniture. The rumor quickly spread through the Netherlands and he lost all the wealth and honor he had accumulated for injuring the king of a country. He was also punished for not selling his furniture to others.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
But there's a story behind this. There must have been quite a few people who didn't want to be favored by the king, since grandfather Jan delivered the items to the royal family.
Human beings are similar in the past and now.
Yes, exactly. So I think he was disillusioned. He just liked making furniture, and he had no intention of using the king's personal connections. That's why Jan made this plan. In fact, he had told the king that he wanted to stop supplying furniture to the royal family soon. But William III continued to demand his talent. He was under a lot of pressure, and in the end, he was asked to build the carriage for king, and as soon as the carriage was completed, he purposely weakened the seat support for the king, cut it in half with a saw, or maybe, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, he did it on purpose. It must have been a huge risk, so he ended up doing what he wanted, got a peaceful life in Nuenen where he feel comfortable and took care of his family.
Hard to believe, it's like a movie.
Yes, the story was so exciting that I couldn't forget it. It's only been a year or two since he came back to his original simple life. Jan's life turned into a tragedy again. It was a plague. Do you know about the plague?
Yes, I know roughly.
18th century Europe had the plague. It's been around before 18th century, but there was still no cure at this time.
Yeah, like coronavirus these days. These days a lot of people suffering and dying from it. History seems to repeat itself.
That's it, it's the same situation as it was. Jan left his family as soon as he got the plague. It's highly contagious. Maybe it was to protect the family.
And what happened to Mr. Jan?
I don't know. He is just missing. No one has found Jan since then. He probably died soon after because it was the plague.
And now I found him finally.
Yes, with your visit to me today, the story ended.
I feel like he had a sad life. I'm not in his family. I'm an observer, but I've never imagined how dramatic his life was. I feel sad and it hurts.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for finding my grandfather's remains, even now.
No, I'm really happy too. Thank you for telling me the story. After explaining my project and obtaining Mr. Job's consent, I said I want to give Jan's remains a better value and a better rest.